We get to video 5 of the Digestive System for 2402 lecture, and we are at the large intestine. This is the last stretch. The large intestine is not that long. Why did I write that? I better pause this. Here we have video 5 of the lecture portion of the digestive system, and we get to the large intestine, which is much shorter than the small intestine. It's 1.5 meters, so it's about as quarter as long, but it's fatter, so they call it the large one. Although most of the water has been already absorbed by the small intestine, the large intestine does some absorption. It's going to concentrate the feces, and it's going to absorb some nutrients and store the feces for a while until it's time to go. There are several regions which you kind of have to be familiar with. The entrance to the large intestine right here is at that ileocecal sphincter. There's a little butt end here called the cecum and an appendix that sticks off of that, but the food, once it enters the large intestine, moves like this across these different regions of the colon through this little S-curve here into a tube called the rectum, and then lastly out through the anal canal, and then the opening is called the anus. So let's go through these guys. The cecum with the appendix. This is where food is received. The appendix, you may have heard of it as being sort of vestigial, or you don't need it, and you can have it removed if it gets infected, but it does a job. It's useful. It houses, beneficial bacterial species and has a lot of lymphoid tissue. And it's right at the junction of your small intestine and large intestine, so it kind of acts as a gatekeeper for bacteria and feces. Your rectum, which is not part of your cecum, which I guess, this is okay, this heading. The rectum's the last stretch, and this is kind of the tube that it kind of bottles up the feces and lets gas sneak around it. Where does that gas come from? Well, a little bit of it comes from your digestive processes, but the vast majority of it comes from bacteria that are living in your gut. You have over 1,000 species, and they are digesting the food that you're basically done with. The vast majority of these are what they call commensal. Commensal species, or commensalism, is where one species benefits, the bacterium, but we don't care. We're not hurt at all. It's stuff we're getting rid of anyway. There are others that are mutualistic, far fewer, but there are ones that both species benefit. So the bacterium benefits and we benefit. An example would be those that produce vitamins B and K, which we can then absorb through our large intestine wall. And then there's some bad ones. Most of them are kept in check simply by competition with other species. Others are occasional introductions. So you might get a bad batch of something, or you might get an infection from the outside. But for the most part, these guys are kept in check. Unless you get sick. If you get really sick, then some of them are going to go, well, let's take advantage of this person's illness to exploit it. There's no mercy out there. Anyway, that fermentation produces gases like hydrogen and methane. These are both flammable, which I can tell you is a true thing. If you think that's a sort of a mythological thing, farts burn. And then this one here, which stinks. This one smells like swamp gas because it's got sulfur in it. So honestly, you can blame your farts on bacteria. Say I didn't do it, and you can pass a lie detector test. What occurs in the large intestine? Like I said, some absorption. The stuff that enters it is called chyme, but over the course of the passage through the large intestine, it gets condensed into feces, and you can keep that for a varying amount of time. If you're very regular and you get a high fiber diet and you drink lots of water, you're going to go once a day, maybe twice. If you're going once every other day or once every 4 days, you might want to consider changing your diet, because over the long term, that's not going to be healthy for your colon. Lots of fiber. Get fiber. The defecation reflex is when you're going to go, right? Sometimes you can make yourself go, but other times it's just like it's obvious that you have to go. And that reflex is cued by this internal sphincter kind of giving up. This one's normally contracted and you don't have to worry about it. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. That one says you're on your own. External sphincter, which is the voluntary one that you really have to concentrate on. Anyway, there's more stuff in this chapter which I have not chosen to cover. So this is the end of the material, this and what's on the printed notes for this chapter. All right. See ya. Good luck. Study hard.